these three.
Oh, here?
Yeah. Is that all right?
Yeah.
The light reflects.
Too late now.
It doesn't matter who sits where. I have a camera for each. So,
Are you serious?
yeah, I have 3 cameras.
Here.
And they're all going to record.
I'm the young guy, so let me sit here.
Oh,
On the other hand, Dave should be the center.
What do you want?
Centerpiece.
No, I don't wanna be a
Get the one with
centerpiece.
the pad, maybe.
Doesn't matter who's where, does it?
Well, I was just saying, you guys need, you know, the young guy should not have to.
Yeah, but the young guys should take over the whole thing.
No, I'm saying, I want you to have back support,
No, that's okay.
unless we can use another chair. Do we
You
have
can
to
use
use
as
these
many chairs
chairs?
as you want.
no, that's just what Susan put out.
Oh. Well, how about?
You can grab whatever.
Hello? Hello?
Hi, Betty Jane, how are you? Nice to see you. Everything okay at your place?
It is. This is a little note from Evelyn, and as you can see, she opened it a bunch of times
your stuff?
Okay.
just to see what she wrote.
Okay, that's good.
Sounds like us.
Thank you so much.
Hey, I didn't even know you got here yet. Did you just walk in the door? I just texted Debbie from my hotel.
Okay.
And she said, just come over.
Dave, why don't
Oh,
you
yeah,
let
yeah,
me-
yeah.
this is
Did
putting
you,
me
so
up
you
too
flew
high
in all night, did you fly
compared to
all
you
night?
guys.
I can sit in
Yeah,
that.
come on in.
I need to just.
Kenny, it's not much higher than this.
Where's the food?
Not yet.
They did have some fat
No,
over
I'm
there.
kidding, I'm kidding.
That's not too much higher, how about that?
All right, everything's
There's
recording.
another chair over there.
I was trying to get a little back support.
Yeah, get that big chair.
By the table. Well,
Get one of the small ones, Ken. Ken, get one without the arms.
I know. Okay.
So between questions, you might lay this on the floor. It's just,
okay, I'm not sure,
So we won't.
I'm not sure if I can read.
Or on your lap, that's fine.
Okay, this way we're all the same level. Here we go. I don't know, I like to do this.
Kenny's nervous.
However you want.
I'm not nervous, I'm just,
He's ready.
We need this night.
I just like to be comfortable. Am I like this, okay like this? Or I don't want us to feel
Why
too,
not natural?
I don't want us to feel too, you
Why
know.
not natural, but there is air blowing, you going to,
This isn't, wouldn't it be better in there than here?
he's got it all set up.
Oh, he does.
Do we need the light?
Do you not want the light?
That's up to you for your camera.
I just
Do whatever you need to do, buddy.
thought I'd give it some.
But if I sit like this more casually, cause this is the way I usually sit, is it?
Yeah, that's awesome.
We want it to be casual.
I usually sit on my bottom. What do you say?
What's this, David?
Sit on my bottom,
What
I'm
is this?
almost on my leg.
Iron.
I have no idea.
It's iron.
Oh, no. No, it's, I don't
What about
know.
all the
I
echo
don't know what it
background
is.
here?
I don't know what it is.
There's a door, you could shut the
You can
door.
close these doors.
Yeah.
Remember our other was too noisy.
You want us in another room so you have better lighting?
He chose this.
Oh, he did? Okay.
We can do some here and then we can move.
Oh,
We
okay.
can-
Okay, whatever, you're the boss.
It doesn't matter. These cameras nowadays do pretty good in low light,
Right.
especially this one.
Pull it hard, Kenny. Come in, pull it hard.
Oh, you got 2 cameras.
Yeah, he's perfect. He streams the church.
Oh.
Anyway, you said this was from what?
I don't know, Fran was like the collection.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. She got it somewhere, I don't know if she.
It
She
seems
likes all
heavy.
this stuff.
Fran, yeah, Donna's a lot like Fran, she likes to
She
go
is,
to
I
the
remember that.
Goodwill and find something, I said, what's that? And she'll bring it home,
Antiques.
make it a nice decoration, Fran always was a master at that.
Yeah, antiques. And I don't remember the shelves there so much. I remember on the porch you had shelves.
Yeah.
I don't think we were in this room very much.
No, we
I
weren't.
don't think we did this was a long time ago.
Right.
Well, anyway, to start with, David, we're meeting on on another date. June 28th
28,
for a family reunion
2019.
at
2019.
2019 at a memorial for Fran. And we thought we'd discuss some old time experiences that some of us don't remember and some do. So the first thing I think Virgil Dean and I were talking, my husband Virgil, why you changed or came to Maryland. And maybe some of the places you've been, where you work.
You mean why I came? to
Yeah, why you chose this place. Yeah. Tell me some of the places you've been, lived. Can you remember? Because
You mean it as a family?
yeah,
I
when you got out of medicine from Loma Linda.
Right. We went from Loma Linda. We went from Loma Linda, didn't we go to DC?
Yeah, she said you were in DC, she was born
I
in
think we lived in DC in a beautiful old brown house that this fella rented to me for a couple of years. And that was only about 2 blocks from the FIP. So I could walk to work. Now, we only had to have one car because we had, we didn't have a lot of cars.
No, we couldn't afford it.
Fran needed a car because she went to work.
Now you had Davy Lee by then,
Yes,
because Davy Lee was born in
right.
California.
So David Lee was at this little, it was a nice brown house, a very nice area that they rented to us. I don't know how long we lived there, but we lived there until we found this house out here.
Okay, now,
A lot of this is, my memory's kind of fading.
I know, but I was trying to get,
You're right on so far.
I was trying to decide why you moved here. Because you worked for NIH.
Right,
Was that in DC?
National Institute of Health.
right. We lived in DC, that's when I went to NIH. I mean, I was probably already at NIH when we found that place
Oh, okay.
to stay.
So that's where you were.
Yeah, it was, I could walk to work and Fran had a car.
Right.
So
Now,
Fran was giving anesthesia those days. And I think she was going down to DC at that Leland Hospital. I think
I've heard that name.
I think she may have actually given anesthesia for them. You know, some of that's really kind of hazy.
I know,
What
but I
about the
kind of,
AFIP, the Armed Forces Institute of Health?
That was my mill, I got drafted.
So were you already in DC at that time when you got drafted?
I think so, but my memory's not.
Cause I thought you were, cause you wore your uniform and everything.
Right.
really?
Yeah,
Cause I stayed with you.
I never saw you in uniform.
You never did? You had to salute, man, cause you had a rank, what were you, colonel or something?
I can't remember what I was.
Was captain at least.
I can't remember what
He
I
had to
was.
be a captain.
I don't know.
The doctor. But he might have been brother. Your kids would know that probably.
Yeah, I don't know. I know I started as a lieutenant commander. That's higher than a captain, isn't it?
It would be.
Yeah, it was lieutenant
Well,
commander.
that's good to know.
I went in as a lieutenant commander.
Okay.
That's a nice rank.
Wore the uniform of a lieutenant
Absolutely, I
commander.
remember you
Now,
looked very spiffy.
Where was Debbie born?
Well, you really could
Okay,
test
I'll have to
me.
ask Debbie.
Where was
She,
that?
Susan was born at Walter Reed.
Right. But where was Debbie born? My mind is.
That's
not-
right, I'm writing it down so we'll ask.
Yeah,
Now, if Debbie were here, she probably could answer that.
yeah, she could, she could.
And we ought to have some background people here to.
Well, we'll ask, I'll leave a
That's right.
space here. Because Susie told me she was born at Walter Reed. And then we were wondering, because we came to visit you at the DuPont place.
Right,
Where was that in Maryland? What's the name of
that was Chestertown,
Chester?
off near Chestertown. It was 10 miles out of Chestertown, the DuPont. We rented that place for quite a long time.
Yeah, because we came there.
Right,
It's a beautiful house,
Yeah.
right on the cliff.
right, yeah, I liked that place, that was nice.
So
And we could have stayed there probably as long as we wanted to, but I wanted to buy my own home.
So where'd you buy your home then after?
Down here,
Well, that was
this was that
me
home.
too.
So we had always rented, you know, at a place in DC.
Right.
It was kinda nice to own your own home.
So do you have any idea what years you were in the NIH?
What?
What years you were in
Oh my
NIH?
goodness.
No, but Debbie and them probably.
I could think about it, not right now, I can't remember.
That's all right.
I was there for basically for my military experience.
Now, when you moved to the Silver Spring house, weren't you still in the military?
Yes. Mhm. That was the reason I moved there, really.
Oh, I see.
So for Silver Spring would have been the college, right? Or that the-
Excuse me, I fraud alert.
Okay, there
It was really neat, it was, we went to live in Silver Spring because it was near Walter Reed.
Oh, that's why, okay.
Fran we didn't want two cars. So we had one car, and she used it to go to work.
Right,
She was a nurse anesthetist.
right.
You know, she put me through medical school.
I knew she did.
Yeah, she worked hard, boy, I'll tell you. Long hours.
I know. I know what anesthetists, they're busy and a risky job.
Right, right.
So we usually started out with one car too, but then we've had miscellaneous because Rachel was always able to fix them.
Right,
He could get a good deal on them.
right.
You know, he could buy them from a sale or he could get them, and people didn't know how simple it was to fix.
Right,
And so we fix it, and we have another car.
right,
So Silver Springs, Walter Reed.
right. Walter Reed and then NIH. I didn't have to move, you
That
know.
was great.
I could stay there and they both were close. So, those were good years.
So then you came here, so
Right.
then it was Doncaster.
Right,
Well, we were just kind of curious, because we know, we visited you there in DuPont, and we visited you here, but I don't think we ever, now, I was gonna ask him, he lived in Pennsylvania, and it seemed like he had an apartment kind of thing, that made me think, I wasn't sure if it was you or him that had a house.
well, Ken came to live with us, you know, for a while.
You know, I don't know.
Yeah, well, you'll have to ask him too, but
Okay,
he can confirm it, but if I remember right, he was single,
right.
and he had a motorcycle.
Oh, yeah, you tell me about
He
that.
had a motorcycle, and we invited him to come and live at our house.
He was a young
And
squirt.
I know Fran didn't like that, because this motorcycle would cut up in the middle of the night.
Okay.
And she didn't like that, All the neighbors could tell whenever he was coming, you know,
Like some,
right?
like some.
So I guess we lived there until we bought the home in Silver Spring.
Oh, okay.
And then, so when I was at NIH, when I was at Walter Reed, we lived near Walter Reed in DC. It was only a mile or two from Walter Reed. And then I felt like we should own a house. And so that's when we decided to make a change.
Good, see, I kinda lost track of you there after a
Right.
little while.
Right.
And that's when the kids started being born and everything,
Right.
and then we did.
I know it was hard to
Too
keep
far
up.
away.
It was. This became our central place, but unfortunately, it was kind of far off from everybody, family.
It is, that's.
So Fran was sort of here by herself without a lot of family. Her dad
And her
mom-
family,
her dad and mom would come here
well,
and
tell me
visit.
where her family was from, cause I don't think.
Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Okay, well now, where's, Kim's wife from?
Donna,
Pennsylvania, wasn't it?
Donna, let me think, Donna, I'm gonna have to ask her because I can't remember exactly. I thought she was from Virginia.
I'll have to ask her.
I think you have to
Because
ask her.
I remember, I thought Donna was a Philadelphia or Pennsylvania person. And see, Kenny had a church in Pennsylvania,
Right,
and
right,
we went there, so I'll have to ask him.
right,
But Fran was Allentown.
right,
You know, she might have even known one of my classmates that lived in Allentown.
probably,
Yeah.
probably.
years ago. She's probably gone right now.
Right. Yeah.
And, where's everybody? Kenny! Kenny! You better tell him to come if he wants to hear this. Okay, cause I don't,
Is he recording this?
he's taping it so we can put this thing together.
Go Kenny, okay. You could,
What do we
go
need to
back,
put?
go back to first thoughts, when they were, their first thoughts growing up in the family, when they were little, when everybody was little. Each person's first thoughts and, you know, like earliest memories,
Right.
earliest memories.
What's some of your earliest memories then, Nathan? Cause you and you were the one that was the first really Joy and then Erwin. What
Right.
do you remember about Erwin?
Back,
Baby boy. You said he was a little bit different. I didn't know that.
He was a little what?
A little different. I know at 8 months, he wasn't able to sit up. We have a picture of him. He looked
Right.
normal,
Right.
a baby boy.
Right.
Do you remember what you said about the doctor? I think we know about the doctor. didn't
Well,
we?
Dr. Brooks, you know, I remember my dad, they tried to reach Dr. Brooks, and I think he'd been drinking myself
Yeah, that.
at that time. So they didn't come, and Mom had really a hard time.
I think her pelvis was small, and so it was hard to deliver the baby.
Right.
And it was at home.
Right. And nobody was there to help her.
Right.
I guess my dad did most of that part.
Like he said, delivering a calf, huh?
Right.
Well, the doctor told
It's a
him,
horrible thing.
well, Erwin, you can do this. Didn't he say something like
I
that?
think so, yeah.
Because he had farming and
Right.
had the little calves.
Yeah, but that's a little
Oh
different.
my goodness. But you know, Mom and Dad never took state boards in New Jersey. They all never took state boards in Ohio. You knew that.
No, I didn't know
But they did in New
No, they
Jersey.
never
didn't
took, yeah, but later they were grandfathered in New Jersey.
that. Is that how it was?
Yeah,
I
and they
don't know.
passed with flying colors.
Right,
And we were so proud of them because it was 35 years later.
right.
But because Dad had,
They studied like crazy, I
yeah,
remember
they
that.
stick, no, I didn't know that.
Well, they definitely prepared for that. That was a big celebration when they
Right. A lot of that's back on my memory.
And you know what? Now I probably lost my train of thought. Anyway, I was gonna say that because they had calf delivery, cow experience, and kids,
Right,
they knew all the psychology and
right.
GIN and
Right.
psych.
Yeah,
They knew all
right,
that.
yeah. That's true.
That's why they didn't have to worry too much about it.
Well, Dad delivered many a cow
Yeah.
with a calf.
Now, what are some other thoughts you might have?
He used to amaze me because if the calf would have a hard time coming, he would put the glove on and he'd put his hand way through the cow and pull the calf out.
He was
I
like
think-
Dr. Pole. You know who Dr. Pole is?
I know, but
He's a popular veterinarian.
Yeah,
from
I read
Michigan.
his book.
yeah, well, Dad did that. I remember Dad doing that.
Now it's an entertainment show.
Oh,
He
really?
does all this stuff, but so Dad did all that.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I remember Dad had all kinds of medicines and stuff with the teeth got bad or something.
Right. Yeah, he was sort of like, he was a good veterinary doctor probably.
Well, because he had the nursing experience.
Right, right. Dad was very particular about,
Milking, washing his hands.
wash your hands before you milk. And
Really?
he paid a lot of attention to, he'd have a special pail there with, I think with Clorox, but maybe something like that.
It sounds like.
And you'd have to wash his hands with his Clorox before you do anything. with
I didn't know
cows.
that part of it, but I knew he was particular.
He was very,
Now,
He
when
was
did you,
particular about everything, of course,
Yeah.
in his life.
when did you first start teasing people when they came over to play with the star?
With what?
The star, the
Star.
tit star.
you'd squirt them in the eye.
Oh, right.
You'd say, look in there, see the star.
Yeah, right. I don't know whether the kids were, the neighbor kids were kinda young.
Yeah, you did though.
Yeah.
Because some of my boyfriends and some of the girls that they come around because of you, you would do that. You would teach them.
Look at the star and the titty.
Right.
And squirt them
Take
with
a look at this and shoot right in the face.
Stouts had a good sense of humor.
Kinda naughty.
Naughty humor.
Naughty and nice. So any other thoughts? Because see, you were the oldest since Joy, we don't have Joy.
Right,
I'm baby boy, because I remember him sitting in a high chair a lot
right,
and sat at the door, because we'd go out and work on the farm or the garden.
right, yeah. He would, I don't know, our whole life early on centered around Irwin.
Did we call him Irwin then?
We called him baby boy, but we knew, we knew he was Irwin.
Do you remember?
The problem was, he was named after Dad,
Right.
so when company would come and they'd talk about Irwin, it was always Dad, not him.
Like Virgil and Virgil.
Right, so we used the term baby boy, which I didn't like particularly, but,
Oh, I didn't know.
yeah.
It's stuck.
But what about remember the wheelchair?
The what?
What do they remember about the wheelchair for baby boy?
Well, I have a hard time remembering the difference between the high chair and the wheelchair.
Yeah, I mean, he was in a high chair a lot. But when we'd go places, which wasn't very often, we didn't take him very often.
No, we did not.
He went in that wooden wheelchair,
Right,
and we took him to Wildwood Boardwalk once or twice, I don't remember.
right.
And we rode in that old truck in the back, most of us. Now Irwin, I don't know how we took him, because he had the wheelchair.
I don't think we took him
That's
that
probably
much.
why we couldn't take him,
Yeah, I don't think we took him very much.
because he couldn't get the wheelchair in.
It was a real problem to move him and take him around.
Well, then, I know we took him down to the Sounds in the water a few times.
Right. I just remember you became the caregiver for Irwin. That I remember. You became the mother figure.
What was Mom doing at that time? Was she
Mother was out washing bottles,
Milk
in the
house.
milk house?
milk house.
Ah.
Oh, yeah. Mother, I don't know. I felt like my dad took advantage of my mother,
Well, he wanted her to be a partner.
Because, she would delegate to Louise all the stuff in the house. Joy at first, and then I can't remember when Joy left, but I do distinctly remember she left. I remember waiting for the bus,
Right.
and Joy got on the bus and we never saw her again for who knows how
For
long.
years, probably.
Yeah, and then Louise took over.
See, Louise, I'm thinking that was a big impact on Mom, but it must have been a huge thing on Louise. It must have really shaped your life,
It bothered me
having
because,
so much responsibility.
well, the kids wouldn't pick up their stuff, and I always said, Mom, you should charge them a penny a garment that they left laying around.
I remember that,
Oh, serious? You guys were sloppy?
yeah.
They would leave things out all the time, and the other thing
Made
that,
it hard for the keeping a nice home,
Let me say something about Mom, though, and the idea of her working and Dad. Maybe it's a little bit in defense of Dad. I've been reading some documentaries about the Depression and all. I think what's what happened. The women had to kind of step up and do a lot of heavy stuff that might not, that today we would say sounds like it's not right.
Right.
Everybody had to pull weight, and it sounds like Mom.
They call it
Mom
abuse
was out
now.
there. Yeah, you seen some of these things about like the Dust Bowl and all that, and I'm thinking, gee, my parents went through that era. Well, not in the Dust Bowl, but the era of depression and difficult times, and I guess I have a lot more sympathy for Mom and Dad and some of the things that they went through.
Well, they were survivors. I mean, they knew they had to do all these things. Dad originally worked for I think Mother might have too.
WPA?
No, at the Woodbine.
Dad worked over Dad.
Was it Dad?
At the Burdett Hospital.
No, I'm talking about Woodbine, long before.
I don't know
Burdett
about
Memorial.
that.
Well, I remember very distinctly.
Being at the state hospital?
Yeah,
I thought that was only mom later in life, no?
I didn't know that.
after Irwin, I think it was when
And then,
mother.
But this was pre-Irwin.
see, we didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't know anything about this.
Well, I guess I probably get the times mixed up, but I do remember
I didn't know that.
mother leaving to go to Woodbine.
She did.
Hospital.
Well, that I know, 'cause I lived through that era where
Yeah.
she would go,
Remember when the baby girl died?
Right,
And she lost all that blood, and it scared me because the bed was full of blood.
right,
And the hall, all the way down, and baby boy was fussing, because he was in that front right room. He knew
Right.
something was going on.
right.
And I never knew, but I just know that, like, before.
you talking about the girl that she lost?
Yes,
I remember mom died.
I don't remember.
I remember this trauma in the home, the mom coming down with blood down her leg.
right,
And that, like, for me, it was like,
I don't
what's going
remember.
on here?
right. That was when she had the
Baby boy was
miscarriage.
still alive at that time.
Yes, he
Oh,
was
yeah.
in the bunk bed at the bottom, and he was apprehensive, you could tell, and I was apprehensive. But mom, the night before, had been sitting on this bathroom, and she said she felt faint, and I think she probably was having some blood, but she didn't tell us.
Right,
And then in the middle of the night, and they had to call Middle Township, because they didn't have an ambulance. So it was a Middle Township, transfer or whatever.
Really?
And then she went to Atlantic City.
right, right.
So I don't have all that down here, but I didn't realize that worked at Woodbine. But see, she wrote the poem about the Burdett Memorial Hospital
Right,
because she thought she lost the baby. She thought more babies would be saved. I don't know what I did with my phone.
Well, I remember
Sorry.
her, I remember the lady she worked with, Gibby, she called her Gibby,
Yes.
right up
She
until
was
the
the-
very end. And she, of course, is that what they both, how is it they both did the 3 to 11 shift?
I don't know.
But she was a
Because I
little.
used to go pick up dad when he'd come off the shift at, I guess, a later stage in my life, but everything was 3 to 11 and waiting for mom and dad to come home. And,
For you, it was a tough time because you were left alone for a lot of the time,
yes,
a lot of time.
I was saying to Louise last night, my memories are, even when she was in charge there, she must have
Like
been
in the
away.
car charging.
And I remember vividly sitting
Go look in the car.
at the front, little kid, and pulling back the curtain. When are they coming home? You know, when, I guess it was Louise, when's she coming home? And being alone, left alone a lot.
Right,
And then after that too, you know, when dad was working and, Rich was at the garage, come home at night in the dark and see Bill Horn's lamp going
Right.
back and forth like
Right.
this, the old clamor,
right.
into a dark home and being there dark until they got home about 11:30 midnight.
I remember all of us. Didn't we all kind of wait at the window a lot? Thinking the family,
Seemed
mom and
like
dad
it,
would come
seemed like
home?
it. Yeah, it's kind of vague.
I
to me,
remember,
but-
it seems like it, and then I think you or Joy used to scare us younger ones and kind of tease us about, oh, they may not come home.
What? Really?
Yeah, but I don't remember what time
Yeah, I don't
they must have been working.
I don't remember those details.
Because it wasn't gas station stuff, it was,
Right, it was prior to the gas station.
I think we were all a lot of friends, because I think Joy and you kind of tried to scare us younger ones. So, but Kenny was not coming there yet. See, he was quite a few years later.
Yeah, I'm way later.
All right, I want to know about the penny candy we used to get at Burke's,
Right,
and the golf station. I can't remember their name. What was their name?
Gibson.
Gibson's, right. You remember that better than I do.
And
I remember some of it, but not too much. I know we, you know, if we have a little money, we have the money, we go buy all this candy.
do you remember us buying a big bag and Mom took it away from us?
I don't
You
remember.
remember that? We had a big bag of candy. I don't know how much we spent. It probably not, in those days it wasn't much, but it was a big bag. And Mom took it. I never knew what she did with it. I never know if she ate it or what.
Yeah, I don't know either.
And do you remember she'd given us a dime and we'd go, we're supposed to buy soup and something, and we used to buy ice cream and a package of pretzels. Did you do that?
Where, was that at Gibson's or
In
somewhere
high
else?
school, that was in high school. Well,
Oh,
we
high
had to go
school.
by Gibson's to get on the bus. We used
Well,
to
you
get the
went
bus
all the
at
way
the
up to that
corner.
corner, did
We
you?
had to go all the way to that corner,
Oh, 'cause
walk
I
up from
went to the
grandma's.
corner, just before the parkway, of course,
Yeah,
that was
see,
a different
Yeah,
time.
we had to go through the,
You had to go a little bit
and
longer.
Berkey's gas station,
Right.
I was bad, I stole some gum, I picked up a pack of gum one morning, and I felt so bad all day long, I couldn't live with myself.
Now, did
So I had to
Burke
go
sell
back and pay
cars
for it.
at that
Yes.
time? Cause that, I knew Burke as selling cars. I
And
remember,
I took my money back, a quarter, I think, to pay for it.
Now, that was Berkeley, that was on the,
Yeah, that was across the
By-
street.
by the inspection station,
Yeah.
right?
right,
And then there was this gas station on the corner,
right, the golf,
but, who was that?
That was
Gibson.
Gibson's.
Gibson, right?
They were on this left, and Banky.
and then there were the,
Burke's here.
was it, not Tang Hears, but who was,
They were on the way up.
Garrison? Was it
There was a
Garrison?
Garrison.
Garrison, right?
Yeah, there was,
Garrison's Garage, he
Right,
became a competitor with Rich for towing cars later.
Right.
right,
Kinda like-
that was on
about
Shelby,
Yeah, it was on Shelby,
On
next,
Shelby.
just before the Gulf Station. It was on-
I'd forgotten about that, but you
Coming
know,
from home was on the left.
that was all the family that we were worried because of the girl that died, Tang girl,
right,
because,
they were out on a
July.
date, they were on a date, and he left the car
Well,
with
they
him.
were a little sketchy, the family was a little sketchy, I think, to us.
well, the boy used to come down
There.
and play. We used to play ball when we had time. And he used to, it bothered me because he'd always get down low and I'd be up on the porch and it looked like he was trying to cut his skirt.
Ah, well,
Always uncomfortable with him. But you played baseball, huh? You played baseball together. I don't know, it was older. But do you remember when that was Joan Tangier?
John,
Yeah, and they thought she was with Joy. She told them she was gonna be with Joy. So they kept calling our house.
and this is when she was asphyxiated because she was in the car with Bonnie.
No, it wasn't. It was a Garrison. It was were their names?
I thought,
One here and one here.
so Bonnie wasn't involved in that? I thought
Oh,
that
no,
was
that
part
was
of the
nothing to do
the
with Bonnie.
negativity was.
No, Bonnie's lived down a little bit lower. And they were a little more closer to our
No, but I
house.
thought that was part of the reason.
No, it wasn't.
Dad wanted to get her out of town.
It wasn't. I don't think he was involved in any way.
Okay.
He was
I
an
don't know.
older guy. This
I
guy,
don't know.
Garrison or whatever their names were together, I can't remember all of them. Tanghers lived over here, kind of by that little white house that Dad owned.
mhm.
And then the one guy lived on his side and he used to go out and pee whenever. He used to pull his pants down.
What?
So he was in trouble.
You
And
got
so
some
I was
real
afraid to
stories there.
go by there. And then that he was the guy, or the brother, was the one that had Joan.
Had what?
Took Joan out,
Oh.
parking on the dirt roads out there, whatever that was. Remember the dirt roads? That's the only time I remember the dirt roads.
Right, what
They were like,
back,
they were back somewhere.
yeah. Back where Ryder used to be. Edgar Ryder.
I didn't remember where, but I knew it
You
was
mean
one
like
of the
what
dirt
we
roads.
called the
Park.
fire lane?
Yeah, Fire Road, right.
Fire lane.
That,
Like
you went
Sandy
by
Roads.
Edgar Ryder's house.
Right,
That was that R Street straight across.
right, all the way back.
Back, yeah. Back the other way.
Remember they had
west.
some fires back there, it was
Right.
rather interesting.
Right.
And of course, that family, Riders, is where we had homemade ice cream.
Had the what?
Homemade ice cream.
Oh, right, right.
We used to call them Aunt and Uncle.
Hmm.
We made a lot of ice cream at our house too.
Yes.
Really?
I don't know if you remember that, but I do.
The old crank and rock salt?
Yeah, in fact, not too many years ago, we got rid of that thing. It was this thing around this tall.
Wooden
And they're
bucket?
hand pumped.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, so I didn't
Yeah,
know the
we-
family, that was
Yeah,
kind of a
that
thing.
was a big thing, yeah,
I remember doing it once in a while, but
yeah.
didn't know that
That was always a
Earlier
nice
years.
occasion. We'd
gather around and the gang would,
we'd turn that thing and take turns turning it. And we'd open it up once in a while and test to see if the ice cream was cold.
And we'd get salt in it.
right, it always got a little salt.
Too many things to remember. Anyway, I don't see how Bonnie's were involved except they lived near.
Right,
Bonnie's
Well, I
lived
just-
almost
I
across.
always had the
It
impression
wasn't
that
Bonnie.
it was part of the negativity that he didn't care for Bonnie and that there had been this incident. That's what I always was told.
Well, I didn't know
So
anything
obviously I
about the
got that
incident,
story wrong.
but I know he was upset when he saw Joy kissing him at night.
So that was the only thing?
That's the only thing I know.
He didn't like the guy and? he
I
just-
don't know, I don't remember too much, do you remember too much details about?
What was the
Bill?
reason Joy got sent away, actually?
It was a good bit because of that.
Because of what?
He didn't want her to marry a local man.
Oh, okay.
Not an Adventist.
Right,
Oh, okay, there you go,
Right.
that clarifies.
right.
A
He
local
was,
non-Adventist.
the non-Adventist was the important thing.
Yeah.
Okay,
Here was Joy coming
some
along,
secular guy.
right, and he was a good guy.
He was,
I
right?
liked him, but
Oh,
And we
okay.
were friends with the
Oh, I see, now
family.
that gives me a whole different impression.
Yeah.
He was a good person.
he was, I liked him. I think he was a nice person.
We always liked the family, we always
Yeah.
liked them.
I think he was a good person, but Dad was very unhappy. I don't remember Mother being all that unhappy about it, but Dad was not that happy.
Did
about
Joy
it.
really
Mom
love
would
him? Was it
understand.
true love?
I don't know, I don't think they were dating that long.
I think they were too young, man.
I don't think they were dating that long.
She was 17, so they were pretty young.
Yeah, they were young. I mean, it seemed like we were young at 17 those days.
There's one thing that's always bothered me, do you remember, not too far from our house, across the street and up to the left, there was a little lady that I thought may have been a distant relative, but we never associated with
You
it. She
talking
kind
about Shelby Avenue?
Yeah, she hid herself kind of.
You mean next to our house?
Well, it was up above our house on the left-hand side. It's been so many years ago, I don't remember
Well,
too
no,
much.
because there was a quiet lady that lived
Across
right
the
next to
street.
us.
Well, I didn't think it was
Right
right
next,
next to us.
yeah,
but
the right next to us was a
I wouldn't remember.
Candy, there was a Candy.
So we used to go over there, before she was single, her husband grew bamboo in the back. And the kids would all come and.
That was across the street from our house, right?
Yeah, I,
No.
now,
By
I
the chicken farm.
No,
I thought it was one street up,
Shelby, it was,
went up from the house.
it was one house up.
Well, there were neighbors, because I remember something about that, but I thought the lady I'm talking about was maybe a distant relative. Mom used to talk a little bit about that, but we never really got into it.
Yeah, I remember, I kind of forgot.
I
There were- I
never
vaguely
clear on
remember.
that.
So I must be talking about the different
But there
person.
was a neighbor that we were close
So there was this lady that, you know.
No, that's-
her
There was a young lady who was her husband was a builder. He lived across from our house in Shelby Avenue.
to. That may have been that. Well, this
And
lady was
Mother
kind
was
of
very close to this woman.
You're talking about the Annans.
Yes,
Annan.
I know, I forgot.
George
I know.
Annan, yeah, so
He was a builder.
I played with the boy, he was younger than me, but because he was the immediate neighbor and there weren't that many kids my age, there was the little Tangier boy, and then there was this Annan, George Annan, who was a good builder,
Oh,
and the wife, and it's interesting because the wife was a good Christian Nazarene woman.
but it was a
However-
gingerbread cottage.
Yeah, something like that, of course, there was Dabalski, and then there was these folks immediately
Yeah,
across.
that's right.
So but the guy was a drinker,
Yes,
and I kind of think he might have been abusive at times, because the woman finally ended up having some kind of an affair, some kind of something going on
with Nash.
with Nash, Jimmy Nash, and I remember,
You're really pulling the stuff out.
well, this was probably after you guys were gone, maybe, I
Well,
don't know.
see, I was friends with her. I used to go, that's where I
She
got to
was
watch
sweet,
TV.
I
Right.
watched TV, first time
Yeah,
I
I
ever
watched
saw
TV
TV,
with her.
we watched Walt Disney
Over there
Sunday
with
night
her.
programs. So what happened is, Annan came home and caught them together in Jimmy's,
His wife?
Jimmy Nash's truck, caught the wife,
I didn't know
the
that.
Nazarene Christian woman, that
Oh. I
somehow developed a relationship. I think that he realized that Annan, the husband, was, there were problems. Anyway, he got in the picture, and so he caught him in the car and chased them down to the end of Shelby, the end of Lover's Lane there, in the daytime, and caught him, and, I don't know, had some confrontation.
Yeah.
Shortly after that, she left that, and she left the church. I think she left pretty sure she left her church. But it was a big scandal, big scandal. And I
And
think
the
they
ch-
went
and-
off, and whether they got married or not, I don't know.
And Fran, the young girl, was my friend. The girl.
What girl?
Nash.
Oh, the Nash
Well,
girl.
what's it, Fran, what was her last name? It was that involvement though. Fran was, they had a daughter, Fran, they had a lot of kids, didn't they? With that man up there on the right,
Nash, you mean?
I think. Yeah,
Well, they had a bunch of kids, cause
I
when
used
I
to
ran
know
around, there
those.
was a bunch of, there were the Nashes, and we all kind of thought the Nashes were a rough bunch. They were a rough bunch.
Right. It was
And I think I smoked my first cigarette butt with them.
Oh, dear.
There was, we went behind some kind of houses, whatever, and smoked cigarette butts. Under their influence, we blamed them. Yeah, so they were
Well, the daughter.
kind of looked down on in the community, actually.
But anyway.
What was their name, Nash?
Nash.
Fran.
Jim Nash was the father.
Yeah, Jim.
Mhm.
Well, anyway, I got off the subject on some of the things.
You know, that's a problem with this kind of a setting, because
Yeah.
one thing triggers
Makes
other
another
thoughts, and like, I probably should keep shut, because then I have a little thought in there, that's probably,
Well, you need to have thought.
yeah, but it's keeping you off your track of what do you
Well,
want
we
to
were
zero
just
in
talking
on.
about David's first thoughts, now we probably should go into yours. So I guess what I was mostly, I didn't remember too much about baby boy, other than the fact that when Joy went to California, he got sick, Erwin got sick, and we put plices in his legs. Because he
What's
had,
places?
I brought home measles from this lady, Anna, across the street. Somebody had measles, and I was over there visiting her, and I thought I had a rash, and Dad said, "Oh, you just have something." Anyway, he gave me a shot of penicillin. And he said, and I guess we thought the rash was that, and so I come home, and Erwin got sick. Of course, you know, he had several episodes of choking.
Right, right.
And then, he got sick and went into a coma. And when he went into the coma, we put IV needles in his legs.
Needles in his
Yeah,
leg?
it's called plices.
What was the?
Under the tissue.
What was
It's
the
into
goal
the-
of that?
And it's
Hydrate,
subcutaneous.
hydrate,
To keep
hydrate.
In those days, that's how they hydrated him.
I see. Wow.
See, that's all, that's
The debunk.
barely, no, it's barely in my brain.
Yeah, because I had to take care of him that way. see.
Right.
And he was unconscious. And that was the first time in his life that I saw he was relaxed. He was not thrashing. His legs were not thrashing, his arms were not thrashing.
Was he
Was he
thrashing out
always?
of?
His
Was he out
legs
of
were
control?
spastic. It was called spastic. Well, we call it now, I
Spastic
think.
paralysis.
We call it now, I think, spastic cerebral palsy. But in those days, they didn't have a name for it.
So he didn't control, he couldn't
So
control.
he could not control. He would
Oh
go
man,
like
that
this.
had to be hard.
And he'd knock your hand sometimes when you were feeding him, not his
But
purposely.
he was very stiff, his joints
Yeah,
weren't good
they were
joints.
And they took him to therapy and things, they had him on
Right,
at the time. They
well,
tried, you know.
well, you had to have regular therapy, and they didn't do regular therapy with him. It's not preventable anyway.
No, I know,
It's-
older
it's what
people's
happens.
legs turn
Right.
in, feet turn in.
Right.
But anyway, he went into a coma, and that was the first time I never saw him spastic.
Which was in a way sad, wasn't it?
And I always had hoped, you know, he'd come out of it so we could see what
I just remember baby boy as a baby, really.
he was about 3'8", I think, and we got a casket 4 foot.
It was
if I
three,
remember.
3'8".
I thought it was about 3'8", and we got a casket about 4 foot.
Huh.
That's what I
You
remember.
remember more than I do.
I
Yeah.
have some flash memories of him, but not a lot of details like you guys do.
Now tell me a little
Well,
bit.
my memory of him was that he was in the wheelchair in the kitchen, and mother would go out and wash the bottles. This is down
And
at
she'd
the
set him on the
farmhouse
door
now,
at the
the farmhouse.
You
where
mean,
the
what we call the
milk
new
house.
house,
where the milk
when it
house
was
was.
original, before the parkway
Right,
went through.
Right, right.
Not Shelby, but
No,
No.
back at the farmhouse.
Route 9 or
And
whatever.
he was there by himself. He-
Sat at the door. She sat him
He,
at the
he
door.
would be there for hours and hours by
It's a
himself.
wonder he didn't get bed sores.
And mother would go out and wash the bottles and come in and check on him and feed him for lunch and so
something that
on.
would never happen today, probably.
No, it would not ever happen.
they were scrambling, man, to make it, that's what I'm
Right,
saying.
right.
But the church folks all knew it, and the neighbors knew it, and they always were gonna go and look in on them if they needed to. I remember them, mom and dad talking.
Were they-
Well, mom and dad got a lot of criticism.
Did they?
They got a lot of criticism.
I know about
They
Tom.
never came to my dad and said, damn it, what are you doing all this for? But the talk was always
Maybe
around.
because of Baby Boy?
Yes,
I didn't know too much.
it was always what I thought was like secretive talk.
You should have taken better care of him, is that,
Miss
Well-
Whitfield never said much about it. I never
No.
remember her.
Well, it was just
people didn't understand probably
quiet
half of what was
talk.
going
No,
on.
they didn't know. Well, on the one hand, these kind of people like Irwin would never have been home. Just didn't happen.
You put him in an institution.
Yeah, went to an institution. But mother and dad would not want to have him in an
So
institution.
they were trying to give him personal
Right,
care,
right.
stay in the family.
Right, he was home and mother fed him, we fed him, every one of us fed him. I'm sure Louise, you remember.
I did, cause that's when I noticed his
Yeah.
hands. were-
I remember, for some reason with him, I remember the word pablum.
Yeah, we could.
You feed him pablum a lot?
I'm sure we did.
Cause that's kinda,
Soft. And, see, I lose my train of thought. I was gonna- Oh, Grandma Boynton. Do you remember her coming down? She used to walk from Grandma's house
Right.
to the farm
Right,
and bring applesauce for Irwin, fresh applesauce.
right. Yeah, you're right.
now where did they lived up the street?
They lived in Grandma's, you didn't,
They
you
lived-
probably never knew.
Where you
Grandma's.
lived?
I never knew her, but,
No,
But
but,
so
did
they
you live
lived
in
in the
that
Shelby
house?
house.
Yeah, Shelby.
right. We had too many houses in Shelby Avenue.
Well, that's, yeah.
So
I
we
thought
had
there were
the
a couple
house-
others. Wait a minute.
We took over Grammy and Grandpa's house, which was down near the water. I don't know, did it?
He was picking her.
And then,
Off the wash.
you're ruining my thoughts now.
sorry, About the houses, we were talking about the
We
houses?
had too many houses, she said, White House and.
Well, we had Grandma and Grandpa's
There was the
house.
chicken coop.
Well, we lived in Grandma and Grandpa's house most of the time, I remember.
That's
On
the Shelby house.
And that's where you knew, we knew you,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we rode bikes up and down that road.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
We go down to the end of the thing and we crab at the dock
Or
and
watch
stuff.
the people crab.
Well, I think
You
we.
crab?
We saw, we weren't smart, we should have charged for selling those crabs and clams.
Yeah,
We didn't make money
You
like
actually got
kids
the crab. I
nowadays.
remember people doing it. and
No, we
would
did
watch.
too. We did too. I
But
don't-
we didn't,
we
but
never
we
paid
didn't,
them.
we didn't try to make any money
You
off
should
of
have
it.
been
Nowadays,
commercial
we would have,
With it, yeah.
Right.
cause we got a lot of crabs.
Hey, I remember, I have a memory of us, and it must include, it certainly included Rich, and I thought it was like all of us boys. We got bad chicken pox, hit everybody.
Right.
And we were up in that front room, across from where the master bedroom, front right room, their little room. And we had bunk beds,
Right,
and all the guys were in there with chicken pox.
right, yeah.
I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
And the dark and curtains.
It was
It
miserable.
might have been measles too, we did something with measles.
Measles might have been later, but I remember this chicken
Chicken
pox.
pox, yeah. They left.
I woke up in a sleeping bag outside, and
Yeah.
I had it first, and then we all went up together in this room.
Right.
Well, I just, that was at one point I wanted to remember about Grandma, I couldn't. And what do you remember about Grandpa Boynton? Cause you and Uncle Alan talked a lot about that, cause you all named about each other.
Well, my problem is my memory of Grandpa kind of blended into Uncle Alan.
Yeah, well, see, that, I don't know anything about Grandpa.
Yeah.
He was working on the bridges and.
Well, I remember, the only thing I remember really about Grandpa was I was sitting on his lap. He'd hold me on my lap, and somehow or other my arm came back or something and hit his glasses, and the glasses went flying, and he just reacted, boom.
Really?
And it was really shocking to me because he was
I remember this story vividly.
oh my goodness.
But you said he was jovial most of the time. You
Most
liked
of-
him.
Most
You
of
liked
the time,
him.
oh, I did,
At this one moment.
but he
Dave,
was very, you know, very reactive, you might say. And,
kind of
you know,
hyper, kind of
you know,
hyper.
like we are actually.
Yeah, yeah.
We're sort of that way too.
Absolutely.
We take after him. And after my mother,
That's what
my
I
mother
said.
was like,
So that's interesting. So you say grandpop or granddad was like that
was
too.
very much
Because
like
mom,
that.
I trace it back to mom's side of the family, this, what I feel is anxiety and kind of
Well,
nervousness.
Nervousness.
For me,
yeah.
it became anxiety,
Right,
okay?
right,
I've
right.
been anxious all my life, but I used to have these shaky hand, I'm a hyper personality.
Right, well, he was.
And
that
you're
way.
reactive like that. You could be calm and then suddenly have a hot temper flash,
Right, yeah.
but then it's over and you're
Right.
kind of back. And you're basically jovial, you know, we get along with people, right?
Here we're being recorded as jovial. That's
Oh.
good.
Well, I mean, we like people, we interact with people. Rich, you.
Well, we were very involved.
very-
We were very involved. We were emotional. about
Very
it.
interpersonally oriented.
Grandpa was like, Grandpa Boynton was like that. I remember that because I remember one time sitting on his lap and somehow or other, my hand went up and knocked his glasses off or
Right.
something.
Yeah.
And boy, he really reacted. Woo!
Well, see, what's interesting to me is that David tells this same story every time we talk about Grant. You realize that? That story, like you said,
Stuck in my mind.
stuck in your mind, that moment.
Right.
Because every time we talk about it, you tell the same story.
Interesting.
And that was like an encapsulation of who he was. He was
Very-
likable, he liked the kids, he'd be bouncing you on his knee, but you hit his glasses and he kinda,
He was very,
Was
very
like nervous.
dynamic, a very dynamic person.
well, they said he was a passionate preacher.
Right.
I hear this because he was beloved. He basically was the lay pastor of the Cape May Courthouse Church. And so Aunt Ada and all of them, when I was a kid, you know, they said, maybe you're gonna be a pastor, encouraged me to think about being a preacher, because he had been, and they said the people loved him as the
Right.
local pastor or lay pastor,
Right.
and that he preached with passion and emotion, would quiver with his voice and all, which all fits in again with the
Right.
fact that he might have been a hyper personality.
Right, I think
And
so.
mom was very much that way. She could scream, you know, Kenny, you know. We hated it when she yelled across the street. Everybody could hear her, and you know,
Right.
very hyper personality, and yet loved people and was kindly and all of that. So
Family histories or something like that.
so this story that Dave just told about Grandpa, this story Dave just told about Grandpa and him hitting his glasses and he kind
Yeah.
of reacted. Every time we talk about it, he tells that same story. And you know
It
what?
really made an impression.
You have a story with me.
Your
You-
favorite grandfather, and he was really unhappy, man.
I'm surprised about that, cause I never knew him.
You didn't
No,
know
I was
him?
not born.
Oh, you didn't know him?
Well, if I was very young, I don't remember Grandpa.
I wish I had known him. I hear
I
all the
didn't,
things
but
I
Uncle
did about him.
Alan's the only one I could relate to, because Uncle Alan was a lot like him, I think,
Right,
and then David.
very similar.
He was kind of a nervous
Very
guy.
much like his father.
He was.
I didn't know that Uncle Alan took control of everything, right? Pretty
Well,
much.
sort of, yeah, Grandpa was
He
like
did
that
the
too.
groceries,
Yeah,
everything.
Well, Uncle Alan had this kind of hyper
yeah, oh,
personality
very
too.
much so.
Because I never have forgotten when he gave up the saw, you know, playing the saw, he said it was because of nerves. You know,
I didn't know
nerves.
that, but I have it.
So
And you have a lot of
I
the
have
same
a lot of
things.
this, and I trace it back to my mom, and now you're telling me Grandpa does that way. What about grandmother? Grandmother Boynton,
Grandmother was a very.
none of whom I have met personally.
Grandmother was a very quiet, loving person who always thought about your well-being. As a child, she was
I need to hear
always,
this.
bringing you, having you sit down and have some food.
See,
Or
I didn't know.
Nurturing,
Yeah, nurturing, right. She was,
but quiet,
but very quiet.
sort of opposites then.
Very,
We say opposites.
grandpa and grandma were very opposites, right?
How about that?
Yeah, they were
That
opposites.
probably worked well. Did you get a sense that their relationship was good?
I, we didn't think about those things probably, but I would say yes, probably yes.
So what happened to him? Well, I don't wanna mess up your question.
Well, I just don't know too much about grandma and grandpa. I just remember her walking with this big black hat and kind of a black outfit, bringing applesauce to
Right.
Irwin. That's
See,
what
I
I
thought you
remember.
knew them all. I thought-
Well, when there was a storm one time, the rafter or something came, the ceiling came down in our bedroom, and I was supposed to have gone and stayed with her that night because she was apparently not doing well. She must have had congested heart or something, did she? Anyway, her breathing wasn't good, and they mom or somebody wanted me to stay with her so I could hear her breathe. Or make sure she was alive.
Right,
And I remember I was very apprehensive about it
that
because
was at the Shelby house?
she was.
Uh-huh,
I
You went
think,
to
or we
visit
may
her.
have been, yeah, I stayed with her and I was supposed to listen for her, see if she was okay. And I hear her breathing and it was start and stop and start and,
Right.
it's probably normal for an older person, but
Right.
I always was very apprehensive because I
By
was
that
afraid.
time, were you in the house?
I think we were down at the farm.
Which would have been next to the gas station.
right,
So you actually went to visit.
I stayed, because the ceiling came down and landed, the nail landed on the bed, and that was one night I was supposed to go, and I didn't. And they were worried I would got hit.
that was at the farmhouse, right?
So,
I don't remember if that was the farmhouse or the other.
so how did that happen? So after granddad, I don't know what you called him, Granddad Boynton, died, when he died from the infection from cutting his hand, right? Working on the
We
bridge
know that.
over on Wildwood. What happened to Grandma? How did that go? Did
She
she
came and stayed with us.
Come and stay with the
farmhouse.
family?
I think so,
up at near the garage?
right,
What you call the farmhouse?
Right.
I think she died there.
yeah.
So she stayed with you a period of years? I mean, was there a long
I
period
Wasn't-
where,
I don't think
where she
so.
was alone?
I don't think it was too long either, but I remember, her favorite thing was to make a pudding.
What kind of pudding? Like chocolate?
Like a
pudding?
rice pudding.
Right, that was probably
pudding.
rice.
Rice
Or
pudding.
custard.
And then we would give that to Irwin, I know that he loved that.
She always sees she was a nurturer, so she probably,
Nurture, now I
she
wish
would
I could hear
favor, she would have
this.
favored Irwin if that was the
Right.
case.
Right,
Quiet nurturer.
she was I
That's-
remember her as kind of a thin person,
She was tall and thin, I thought tall, and a
That's-
black hat, she'd wear a black hat.
right?
That fits in with Mom, cause Mom was a nurturer,
Yeah.
Right.
you know, even
Oh, she was very
after
much
you
the
guys all
personality.
left and all, and I know she nurtured you.
You think mom's personality is grandma?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, but she also had that bombastic side that was more like Grandpa.
Grandpa, right, she had both, let's face it.
Yeah, well, there you go, so she's a blend. But, Mom, would go around, like when I grew up, she would go around to all the shut-ins.
Yes,
and
she
visit.
did.
She'd go up to
The
Abbey
Hills,
Bond
Abby's.
and visit with her, and she was
She'd
this
buy
sort of
groceries
quiet.
for him.
She was this quiet, kindly
Right,
lady from the church who went around and enjoyed visiting and talking with people. Never made a lot of herself. She just kind of cared. She was a carer. Her very much fit in with her being a nurse. But that's interesting that she got that probably from her mom.
I
But
think
she and
so.
the writers, they had a pretty close relationship, didn't they, the writers family? Because we used to go over there for ice cream all the time.
Riders, yeah, that was a long-term
Yeah.
relationship, cause I used to go work for the Riders, later on.
Now, I remember
I worked for Edgar Ryder. You're talking about, what was his name?
Herbert, was it?
Herbert
I don't
Ryder,
know.
Herbert Ryder, you're right. Herbert Ryder lived over on one side, and Edgar Ryder had a business on the other side, and he was a very good manager. He had several trucks, and he ran a pretty good business,
Well, I remember when you worked for Edgar,
right?
because you would unload stuff on the truck, you would haul blocks and stuff
Right.
around.
I know they were good friends.
Delivery, like when.
We
like
called
a
him aunt
delivery.
and uncle.
Right,
I remember a lot of thoughts about David at that stage.
Right, that's interesting, because Dad didn't have too much for us to do anymore. That's when I started working
Oh,
for
I see.
Is there? Well, now tell me about the cows.
Well,
Every time-
long before this Edgar Ryder business, we had cows. And we were poor. We had that long shed, it was a chicken coop.
Yeah.
And we had cows that came to this kitchen coop
How
to
did
be,
it start?
to be
That's how
milked.
they had a chicken farm. They used to kill chickens and slaughter them. They got caught in the neighborhood taking chickens to the lady up on the corner. Dad's mom.
Well, no, wait a minute, there was Dabalski across the street.
No, but
They
that
owned
was
the chicken-
way-
But they owned
This
the
is
chicken.
way before.
Oh, cause that was a big chicken farm.
The old farm
So
had
how,
a chicken.
so tell me again, you're saying they had chickens to begin
When
with?
they first got married, this is what I remember.
This is what I need to hear.
Now, when they first got married, they were raising chickens, and apparently they had this long, I don't know where that
Where,
chicken
on
coop-
Shelby?
I don't know where that was.
No, that was back at the farm.
It was at the farm, but how
Back
did
at
we?
the farm, for years after we tore that chicken coop down, there was a big piece of cement.
How did
Yeah.
Dad get that land? How did Dad like?
Dad took years to buy that land.
But so that was the first thing you did is buy that piece of land.
Dad
It went clear back to the
Dad
farm.
wanted to buy that farm. He did not have the money to buy the
So it was
farm.
an operating farm? Was it a cow farm?
Well, we had cows
No,
in
was it a
that,
milk
we
farm?
had cows and we had,
Yeah, but Dad started the cows. I don't know that we
So
bought.
what kind of a farm was it? Was it a truck farm?
I think it was an old chicken coop,
It was
if I
remember. It did everything.
I thought they
it
bought
was
a
out
chicken coop.
behind the house.
I thought they lived in a chicken coop as their first home.
They might have.
But that
because
was
they were
up in
working on it.
Shelburne Avenue. That was a totally different,
See, I didn't know
Oh,
that.
okay.
experience.
So
You're
saying
mixing
I am
up.
too, cause I don't.
The early time
because
was Uncle Al